Let's say we have this application, a news feed with articles, the title of the news feed, and a button which changes the theme of the news feed from dark mode to light mode, and vice versa. So this button will change the color of this title and the color of these articles as well. Here is the app on the right side. You can see the title of the news feed, and there's two articles here, like in the diagram. Here's the button that toggles the dark mode, light mode. We can see clicking on it doesn't do anything because we don't have the functionality yet. Now here's the code. You can notice that it's all in one file here. The title, the articles, article, button, all in here. However, in best practices, might as well separate them out into their own file, like a title file for this, articles file for this, article file for this, button file for this. But for the sake of this video, we're keeping it in this one file. So this title here corresponds to that, and it's passing in the children, which is World's 2023 news feeds, and it's being passed into this H1 file here. Articles is this container that has these two articles, passing in a title and a content. So this title for this article will go into this H2 tag, so like this, and the content tag here will have the content just like that. And the button, fairly simple. This will be the text, toggle dark mode, and there's no functionality yet. The parent, the app, contains all of these components. Now we have a app CSS file. This controls the styling of everything here. These index files are what you get in the Create React app. Just ignore those. So how do we implement that functionality for the button? So you can see that we're using class names here, and that gets passed into the elements, which will correspond to one of these class names, so light and dark. So there's a background color and a color for both of these classes, and they control the styling. So let's say we just use dark here, for example. You can see that it turns dark. We can use a use state in the app component that controls the theme, and we'll use the default value of light there. Of course, we're going to have to import it. Just use the IntelliSense to import it there by itself. And the button will have to pass in the theme and the set theme function, so it will know those things. And now we're going to have those as parameters. The on click of the button, let's just put that on a new line to make that clearer to see. It takes in a parameter. At this point, we don't need a parameter. And we're just going to call set theme to, let's say, make it dark mode. Yeah. It won't do anything, but the theme is dark. But since the class name is still light here, it doesn't change. So if we change that to theme, you can tell it's now changing. So we want to change that into dark mode. However, what if we want to change it back to light mode? So we're going to see what the current theme is. And if it's dark mode, well, we're going to change it back to light mode. Otherwise, we're going to change it back to dark mode. So you can see it's changing the button correctly. And we're going to have to do that. We're going to pass that theme to everything. So even the title will have a theme. The articles will have a theme as well. And so we're going to have to do that. We're going to change the title to accept the theme. We're going to change this class name into theme, so it changes that. And now articles will also need to know the theme, so those are passed into the article themselves. I'm going to pass that in here too. And in the article, it needs to know the theme now. And here's the class name for the theme. So I guess it should be called theme class name. And we're going to change this and this to that. And I guess we're going to have to change the div as well just to make it look nicer. So we're going to do plus theme, maybe. Perhaps just space there. All right. And maybe the app class name as well. So class names. So we're going to do that. There we go. So now the whole newsfeed is dark theme, and we can toggle it back to light modes. Now you notice that the theme and the set theme are passed into basically everything. The button needs it, article needs it, articles needs it, title needs it. So that's a problem. The code gets littered with themes, set themes, and it's everywhere. And if the newsfeed updates with more, let's say we have to change the newsfeed later on, and a new component gets added in, and then that's also controlled by a theme. We'll have to pass in the theme prop to that component too. So theme is everywhere. And if this code base gets bigger, it just gets hard to read and to maintain. So how can we use this useContext hook to solve this problem? So the hook useContext will allow us to manage state and share data across different components. First, let's create a context. Usually this should be on its own file. We're just doing it on this file for the sake of this video. We'll call it the theme context. And we would be create context. We're going to import that from React. And we're going to put in a default value, which is the light theme. The next thing we'll do is we're going to put the theme context provider on top of the components that need the theme. So the title, articles, button, those will need the theme. So we're going to put it on top of those. So theme context dot provider, and we're going to nest all of those components inside the provider. This takes in a value prop. This is what the value is going to be, and we're going to put that as a theme. So this value of light is going to be the value. Now in the components that need the theme, such as the title, article, button, we'll put in useContext. So declare a variable, I'm just going to call it theme, and we're going to use useContext. I'm going to import that. And what do we put in there? We're going to put in the theme context. So what this does is that it's going to look for a provider, and it's going to take in the value, and that'll be assigned into this variable theme. Now this theme will be used by this class name, and voila. We won't need this theme anymore in the parameters, so we remove that. So that's the title. Now it's going to do the rest. For articles, it doesn't really need the theme because we're passing it down to the article component. So we could just remove those two. For article, it does need the theme. As you can see here, it'll be used in the class name. So we're going to copy that again, and we're going to remove this theme from the parameters. Same as the button. It is used here in the class name. I'm going to remove the theme, and we're going to put it there instead. And in the app, remember how we're passing down the themes. We don't need that anymore. Now we can check if it works by clicking on the button, and it is still working. Now you can see how clean it looks. We don't need the theme being passed into the parameters. No theme here in the article. No theme in the parameters here or the parameters here. It'll be all handled by useContext. We can have multiple providers with the same theme context. Let's say this article here will always be light mode for some reason. So let's try and put in another provider on top of this article. This will have the value of light. And you can see that if we click on this button, it's not changing this at all. That's because the article, you can see that it's using useContext here. It will look at the provider above this component. So we can see that in this component, it doesn't have a provider on top of it. It'll go further above and it'll eventually hit this provider. And the value is the theme, which updates to the light mode and dark mode. However, for this article here, it's going to look for a provider above it. There is a provider above it, and the value of light will be used. So it will never turn into dark mode because it is statically just light. It's not changing. Other than themes, useContext could be used in e-commerce sites to keep track of the shopping cart, the login information, because that is used everywhere in the app. Basically, you can use context if many components share the same data. So, key points. useContext can be used to pass around data that's used throughout the app, like theme. It avoids passing down props, which is called prop drilling, which can get difficult to read or maintain. But if it's simpler just to pass down props, perhaps in this newsfeed application, we could just pass down props and it's pretty simple, then just do that. Don't need to overdo it. Go keep it simple.